Hey everyone, and welcome to our weekly SIG Release Meeting. This meeting adheres to the Kubernetes or CNCF Code of Conduct, which basically boils down to be excellent to each other. I already put the agenda in the chat, so please add yourself to the list of attendees. And Jeremy will take notes today, though. Thank you for that. Before we start with our recurring topics, we would like to welcome any new members or attendees. So is there anyone on the call who would like to say hi?
This is my first time here. I just want to say hi.
Hey, welcome. Always good to see new
Thank
folks joining this meeting.
Yeah, I'm having some trouble with my camera right now, but yeah, it's my first time here as well. Just wanted to say hi, my name's Drew. I went to KubeCon last week and was getting to know the SIGs a little bit better. This one caught my interest, so I wanted to tune in.
Cool, welcome through. So good to see some results after our KubeCon efforts. All right. So then we can just jump into our sub-project updates. Do we have anyone from release engineering who would like to provide us an update?
Okay, perhaps I can. Well, KubeCon happened, so not a lot going on except for two things. Well, the second one is maybe more suited to the release management bracket, but okay. So the first one is we fixed a bug that was holding the release process over the weekend. Apparently, there was a change in one of the licensing libraries that we pulled from Google, which broke the release process. And well, that should be working now. I saw Carlos run a test, and apparently the real process finished correctly. Then the other thing that at least is on our radar is, of course, the OBS effort going on, which Mark was going to talk about, I think, today, or well, not to put you in the spot, Mark, if you're not ready, but that's what I heard. And finally, there is the issue of the upcoming package releases, which perhaps is best suited to discuss a little bit further after this brief update.
All right, thank you.
That's all I'm aware of right now.
Do you want to add this additional topic to the open discussion? Maybe.
Sure. I'll drop it.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, we also have this kind of refers to the next point, but we also have this K-promo changes now in place. And for example, we now just promote the files which have been diffed in a PR, or for example, which has been touched by merging a PR for the promotion. But this has been merged earlier today, and we had no run in between them. So I expect that the Alpha.3 planned for the day will probably be the first candidate to check this out and test this. So we should carefully look at the promotion if we get everything promoted we want to have, right?
Because how fast do you think it'll be with the new changes?
I mean, we have around 630 images right now, and the different locations where we want to sign them. And we will then just only do that for 30 images or something like this. So it should be significantly faster with the new K-promo.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, but we will see. All right, so then we just, any further questions or comments regarding the release engineering updates?
I think maybe this is now or release team, but either way, yeah. 126 Alpha 3, I'm cutting that today. So the issue has been open. There's a thread in Slack. and we're all ready to go there. So I'm going to be kicking that off around 9:30 Pacific today. And yeah, updates will be in the thread.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, Leo, I don't have the possibility right now to share. Oh, can I just, let me just double check. I can share the single tab, probably something like this. This one. All right, so then we can jump over directly to the release team updates. Do we have anyone from the release team who would like to provide us a general update about the current release?
Yes, sure. I can give an update. So far so good. Everything is running good so far. We don't have any major problems or anything that I'm aware of. We sent out the mid-cycle release team status email last week, so I think was on Saturday before KubeCon. And we will have the first retro meeting scheduled for tomorrow, right after the weekly release team meeting. So if there's like anything you would like to add to the notes, that would be very nice. I think we have a few topics, not too much. I have to check again. And right, and also Code Freeze is next week, I think on Thursday. So I will send out a notification reminder email probably by tomorrow. And that's it. So we're on track.
Sounds awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the update. Do we have any additional content, questions, or concerns regarding the release team?
I have one additional topic. I don't know if this is the right place, if this should be in a release team meeting, but SIG Instrumentation has a pull request open to add a document that was generated documenting all Prometheus metrics in core Kubernetes. This uses a generator in there's a proposal to have the release docs team to be part of their task, and I want to discuss this before proceeding and getting the okay from SIG Release and also from those who are familiar with the docs sub team as well. Don't know if this is the right place to bring it up, but I could also bring it up in the retro as well as Leo mentioned here, but I could add that. And let me put the pull request in regarding this in the chats, and I'll bring this up in the retro as an additional step that the release docs team, if they are willing to take this on. Right now, SIG Instrumentation is generating this, and this pull request has not merged into K website yet, but this would be an additional step that is proposed for the release docs team.
Yeah, sounds good. So it would be probably a process change for the next cycle. So I think the retrospective is a good place to discuss it.
Okay, so this is not a cap or anything, right? So I have it open.
I mean, no, we changed the process from retro to retro, and this looks like a small adaptation to me. I mean, I could be wrong here. I mean, if you feel that it's more like a huge effort or process change or something like this, then it's probably worth a cap. Yeah.
Okay. Not sure yet. Probably it looks not like a cap right now, but I have to check.
Yeah, sure. All right. Anything else regarding the release team? Otherwise, we will now jump over to the open discussion topics. So the first one is so I had a look at the Rapture script split up today, and I was creating a placeholder issue, which now contains the overall plan to move it into Krell. And I think it should be doable in a very short amount of time. The only thing I see is if we create wrappers for building those packages, then we would probably have today, as of today, build those packages on Grail release. So this is kind of a mismatch between how we understand building and publishing artifacts, right? It's because the script itself expects that the release binaries are already on their target destinations. So we can just not run it in Grail stage. But I don't see it as a big deal, honestly, because we will swap out this implementation in the near future in any case. And yeah, it also produces the packages at the local file system, so we can then just push it to a GCS or to our general GCS bucket as well. Yeah.
Do you think that we would do this for this release? I mean, we're not cutting packages for the alpha right now, so that's not a big deal. But do you think that we should change the process for the upcoming parts of 126 that would have packages generated, or do we want to hold this until the 127 release?
It kind of depends. I think we can do it. I think we still have enough time to play around this release with it, and then also just propose the changes by the end of the release.
Okay.
But my next question, for example, would be, do we have anyone on the call who is particularly interested in working on this? Because I see it that should be fine if just one person works on it.
I can work on it since I'll be the one with my shadows that will be running it.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm around if anyone has questions, but I'm a little stretched at the moment.
We'll try not to ping you too much.
Yeah, maybe one open question would be, where should we put the packages, right? So that the Google Build admin can just publish it. But probably this doesn't really matter, right? So it just downloads from any location we can specify.
Yeah, I think probably we just put them in an unadvertised GCS bucket so that users don't start relying on it. And we just point the Google Build admins that we can write a little script to like download them and feed them into the signing step and publishing step. They just need to be downloaded to the location where they would have been built to. So it should be, I think it should be pretty straightforward to just do like a GSUtil CP to some new bucket that we don't advertise, and then do the reverse before publishing.
Yeah, I mean, we can just run it at the end of Grail release, but still push the packages to the destinations we have specified in Grail stage, for example. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would just say like really any bucket that isn't the like known public release bucket that we're going to want to be moving anyhow. And I mean, it sounds kind of like Rube Goldberg and not great, but it's about how it is today because the packages themselves just fetch the binaries, and I don't think they do any validation of them or anything. I mean, the obvious next step is that, I mean, the tool needs to be replaced or iterated on.
Yeah, exactly. All right, thank you. So any further questions or concerns regarding the DEP and RPM packaging plans?
One little thing, when we were working on Bazel, one of the things that we actually did was have dev and RPM builds like in the main repo, consuming from the binaries the same way we package the images. I think that might be worth considering because it also gives us an opportunity to fix a long-standing issue that because the specs aren't versioned per release, we can't make any changes to the systemd unit files. And if you look at like every Kubernetes distribution in the project, they have patched the systemd unit files versus what we're shipping in the packages because there's some things that would be nice to change, but we don't necessarily want to backport.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of falls into the same category of the next topic where Marco would like to provide us an OBS demo, but we could also discuss, for example, do we want to build the packages from the sources like DEPs and RPMs are usually built, Or do we probably still want to have something like a short path, right? We have a binary somewhere and just put it around. So we don't want to build it over and over and over again for every architecture.
Yeah, I think that we should do what we do with the container images, which is where we take the binary we just built and we like put it into the package, but locally without these extra hops bouncing through GCS. And
yeah.
And also it's kind of nice because you can just check out Kubernetes and build any of the release artifacts there. Like, you know, base images or something aren't there, but like everything else in the release, I can clone Kubernetes and like run a certain command and like get those things.
Yeah, cool. So thank you for that additional input, Ben. Really appreciate it. Marco, do you want to go next with the OBS demo?
Yeah, sounds good to me. First of all, can you hear me, Val?
Yeah.
Okay, and can you give me access to share the screen?
Yeah, you should be now able to take it over, right?
No, let me try. And do you see something, or not?
Yeah, we can see it.
See it.
Okay, so this is a demo and update about the OBS efforts that we tried to do over the past few weeks. So for those folks who don't know, OBS is open source platform for building packages for operating systems like Ubuntu, CentOS, and all the other that are Deb and RPM based. And so far, we had a solid success with this platform. This is something that we want to use to replace the scripts that we discussed before. So including building images and including publishing artifacts, assigning, everything is done by OBS. And OBS provides, like it is, we can treat it as an API so that we don't have to take care of keys like GPG keys ourselves and stuff like that. Everything is done by the platform. So it helps us a lot that we don't have to think about that much. Also, the OpenSUSE folks want to support us, so they will sponsor us to use the OpenSUSE instance that they have with OBS. And we have been using it for testing it for proof of concept purposes. And I think that it went pretty well. The building is quite quick and you get packages relatively quickly, like 5 to 10 minutes is something that I had experience with for the major platform. And we will see about every other platform that we have. So how it looks like, this is the main page. This is the thing that you can everyone go to. I will try to share links as well. Let me see if that's possible. When I am, yeah, I can also share links. So it is a service where the homepage, and this is our project on OpenSUSE, like it's called ICV Kubernetes. And basically it has all the packages that we have. Like we can easily create a new package. For now, I added a bunch of them. And the one that we actually publish right now, that's CryTools, KubeADM, kubectl, Kubernetes, Kubernetes CNI. And basically for all of them, I got Ubuntu builds working, so Debs. And for Kubelet, I got both Debs and RPMs working. How it works, like, so when it comes to publishing the packages, as you can see from the root of the project, when you choose, for example, Kubelet, you can see source files. And it's expected that we provide the changelog. So this is kubelet.changes. This is usually change of the packages or the package itself, not of Kubernetes, but for example, if we change something to spec or something like that. We have description file for Debian. We have spec file for RPM-based distros, and then we have the starbug that contains binaries, and also the spec files for Debian. So for RPM, we have the single spec file, and that's all. But for Debian, there is also a bunch of other files. This description file is put at the root like a source file. Every other file is put in the starbug. So basically, we can go through that stuff. So this is the, for example, of Kubelet. As I said, you have a very basic changelog. the description file is basically what we had before. Like you put what we depend on, you put files, and this is the tarball that we provide with, and package name and other stuff. It is very simple, so nothing too complicated. And the spec file for example, for kubelet, this is used for RPM stuff. And as you can see, this is coming from QPKG. So I use the tool that we already have. It is based on this thing that we have here. So let me just find it. Give me a moment, please. Yeah, here it is. The difference here is that we have one huge spec file that we were using before that kind of creates all the packages. So one spec file for all packages. But as we discussed on a meeting ago or something like that, we don't really want that because this is hard to maintain. This is hard to use, actually. We solely would want to build packages. So the idea is that we created sub-splitted spec files, and basically this is going to be a kubelet and only that. And it seems to work very well. And what I want else to show is I have a try to install package, but installing kubelet in container is not that fun stuff. Manager. So how it actually works looks like this is the tarball. I have created a subdirectory for each supported architecture. It contains stuff like kubelet binary, kubelet environment file. So this is something that Ben mentioned earlier. So we have those args and stuff that is usually overridden. But yeah, we provide that all in the binary for each supported architecture. And then we have this Debian directory, which is basically the spec files for building Debian packages that we have with QPKG and that we actually have in the release repo as well here. So it is nothing new. It is just those files taken, put in archive, and we just published that. And finally, when you push that, for example, I can try to bring some change. Let me see if I can do that. So, for example, how it works, like I can change something in spec, I don't know. Let me see, for example, this one. And if there is a command line tool that's called OSC, and OSC is used to interact with Open Build Service, with the instance that we are working on, and it provides like very simple interface that you can modify those source files here. So for example, I can see the status. I can also do commit, and I will see SIG Release demo. It is sending, it takes usually pretty quick. And then you can see that builds are getting scheduled instantly, and then it will start working on. And for example, you can see that some stuff is already building. Like, that's not true. Yeah. And for example, it is usually building. I have now pushed before opening other logs, but it usually takes, let me see, can I find build history somewhere? Yeah, not sure about that right now, but yeah, it, for example, takes building, and that takes maybe 2 or 3 minutes. It is quite quick. So yeah. Now, what else I could show? For example, this is going to be useful to Google folks, at least in the beginning, until we don't completely switch, is that you have access to all files. It is not here and not here, it is here. For example, you can go to our project. I can also share this link as well. And for example, if you open CentOS, if you open X, you will see, for example, kubelet package, and you can download it. So for example, you could take that package, strip off the signature, and then use it to publish it on the Google Infra. So that is an option as well. And same goes then, for example, if you go to Ubuntu and you go like to Andy, you will see all those packages here. And yeah, I mean, I probably can demo installing one of them right now, but you can believe me that it works. So I have actually tried it. Maybe if I do some public test, I will share it with you all and show how it works. And as you can see, it works well. Like, I don't really have many concerns about this. And the biggest concern that I have was going to be a problem with ARM v7 and S390X for PowerPC, I think it is, because those platforms are, yeah, kind of strange, kind of hard to test. And it is, for example, a problem that builds might take quite a while for those platforms. And if we wait enough, we will see, for example, that builds are going to fail, as you can see, because for open source operating systems, they have a very strong requirements when it comes to spec files, and you must pass majority of RPM lints checks. And for example, we have an issue, for example, with invalid license, we have some errors, and until we don't solve that, those builds will fail, and that requires changing the spec file. So this is something we have to be careful with, because we want to make sure that if we change spec file, we are not going to break, for example, Ubuntu. That doesn't require that. So this is something that I'm yet to look into it. But overall, I think that it is only a problem for those two platforms, and I think it is solvable. But just to mention that, for example, this build might take quite a while, depending on the day. So for example, it was quite quick now, but something like I had to wait 2 or 3 hours or something like that, which is shouldn't be a problem because this is not really used that much, I hope. Okay, so I have spoke for some time. I have shown how the platform looks like, what else might be useful if, for example, these divisions. They are providing some, let's say, primitive type of version control. It is not like Git, but it is something that you can look at history, you can open sources, you can do stuff like that. And yeah. Do you have any questions? Like, I do have questions, but I'm wondering if you have any questions, if you want to see anything, it's a good opportunity to ask, and I can show you if I know about it.
This is kind of a silly question, but the ISV, I'm assuming, is independent software vendor in the URL or the handle there. Is that like a defined default? Is that traditional or normal? I just haven't seen it before, so I was curious.
Yeah, you mean about the project here?
Yeah, so like if somebody were to create the apt repository and pull from this, they would create something pointing at the ISV Kubernetes. Like that would be the official artifact registry, I guess, or repository.
Yeah, so I can show that as well. For example, if you want to take Kubernetes for SIG Kubernetes project and you get such, you, for example, download this repo file, put it, and then you can install it afterwards. So this is the way it works. And migration, for example, if you have existing packages, you like remove the old file, put the new file, and it just continues to work.
So how does this work when you have a new release to publish? Like, do you have to create this new tarball, and do you have a system for that? Or I really like that they're hosting this for us. I think that's a little bit of an issue for us right now. It's like an obvious next problem is like, where do we actually host these things and manage keys and whatnot? Right? More download traffic, but this looks pretty manual.
Okay, so that's a pretty good question. The way I anticipated that this can work is, for example, that we have some step in, for example, crowd release, that we create that tarball and that we push it to OBS. The question is, do we need to save it? For example, do we need to put it in some GCS bucket? Technically speaking, from OBS perspective, it is not needed. For example, we can push directly. We can also put it to some bucket and then use the there is double file service, for example, that's going to pull it from the GCS bucket, but then it doubles the space requirements because we have to store this tarball somewhere for each release.
But so setting aside like crack tools and everything for a second, the packages in the main repo, like if the release team is ready to release a new release, you have someone has to craft this tarball and submit it.
Yeah.
Do you foresee that being automated in KREL, or or does someone manually do this?
I think this can be. Yeah, I think this can be automated in KREL because the tarball itself, as I have shown earlier, is pretty, not complicated. Like it is just a binary, so you can easily create a script to pull each binary, put it in the appropriate directory, and then create a tarball and push it to OBS or to GCS bucket, whatever we decide. And after we push it, after we update inspect the version here, build happens automatically. There is nothing we have to do to trigger builds and stuff like that. It is just enough to push and we are done with that. So from that point, it is relatively simple. Does that answer the question?
Yes, I have more follow-ups, but I think Adolfo's been waiting for a bit. So Adolfo, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, it's related. So those operations that you did with the CLI tool, how does the authentication work if you want to interact with it?
Yeah, that's a good point. I will need to double check that. From what I have seen on profile, you have some sort of tokens and you can create a token, and we would probably could try to use that to, for example, there's stuff like release and to authenticate with some token. And then with OSC, like I think, let me see, can I show CKL, but I did once and I didn't think much about it, but this is a pretty good point. But yeah, there is a way to create a token, so I think we should be able to use that. I can give it a try and report back if it works well.
Okay.
So for the beginning, also to answer that, if anybody has a question about that, is I think the plan is that we will use OSC tool itself in the CRAL. This is something we discussed before, but the idea is that we don't want to go into like implementing some Go API or something like that, because that will take time. We can just use OSC directly, invoke it from CRAL and use it like that, at least for the beginning, and then see later if we need to create some library or something like that, because as far as I have seen, they don't have API library for Go or something like that that we can easily use.
You mentioned builds failing on these two architectures. Is there a way to trigger like a reattempt, or is that a deterministic failure because we're failing the lint? And also, like, maybe something for folks to consider, like, do we think that these architectures are a blocker for us?
In that case, this is failing because RPM lint. You can retrigger the job. As you can see, there is this trigger build, but it's going to fail again because those RPM lint stuff is consistent. This can be solved, so it is not unsolvable, but it is a question is if this is blocker, if this is not blocker, how do we want to proceed and stuff like that. Like, do we even want to go with those packages in the new info? Do we want to consider that deprecated and say, yeah, we don't publish, I don't know, Power Platform or
So
ARM,
is it only
topics.
those platforms? Like, why isn't it failing on isn't it failing on like x86 or something? Is the spec different or?
It is because of operating system. For as you can see, you can build for each operating systems, and right now on the platforms is that, for example, CentOS, Debian, Ubuntu is not running RPM leads, but OpenSUSE operating systems is enforcing that to publish packages you must pass RPM lead checks. That's not the case for other operating system, but it is the case for OpenSUSE. Like if I would add 64 bits for OpenSUSE, it will still fail, even in places like CentOS, because they require that there are no RPM links errors. And we can see about that with them, and if there is a way to work around that, but from what I have seen, there is not such way. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, well, just maybe you haven't looked into this, but do we know if there's a limitation on the free hosting that they provide? And sometimes things are free, but up to a point.
I mean, they're sponsoring us, so I don't anticipate any limitations for now. Even if we run into such limitations, we can host OBS platform ourselves, and then continue. Relatively easily migrate. The problem will be JPJ key, but yeah. From what I have seen, I don't anticipate problems. Storage is going to be a question, for example, because we are pushing those relatively large tarballs. But I mean, even if we push Kubernetes sources to build the packages in OBS, that's also huge because, like, I think Reporot is something like gigabyte or something like that. But they don't think it's going to be an issue. Maybe Jason correct me if I am wrong. So yeah, for now, I don't expect issues.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
Do we have anything?
I have a concern or a question. One concern is that you configure the repositories for the kubelet, for example, like CentOS 7 or Debian testing, and people will complain to pull in Ubuntu or Debian packages into Ubuntu distributions, for example. We probably can also tweak the configuration and rename that to something like generic RPM builder or generic Debian builder, so that it doesn't really point to a distribution.
There's something that we will have to check with OBS folks. I'm not sure if that's possible.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We can probably just rename it, but we would still have a generic builder. And for example, if a dependency in a package just change, like I think we need curl or something like this, or don't think we need contractor. But if any package changes, then we would probably also trigger a rebuild, right? So we just have to double check if we want to manage those dependencies for ourselves or which base distribution we would like to use for building devs and RPMs.
Yeah, that's something that we have to discuss and decide on what base distro we want to use. But probably a good idea would be to ask OBS folks and see what we can do about that.
Yeah, that's good.
I'll also point out one thing that to me a little bit is that I think aside from Windows, the rest of the Kubernetes release today, it's technically possible to like invoke the build locally and produce the build outputs yourself. And this kind of moves the specifics of the build out a bit. On the other hand, like I think I personally view these as like slightly ancillary packages. I think we need reference like systemd spec files, but beyond that, like specifically installing for these distros, this isn't the only way to install Kubernetes. Beggars can't be choosers, and we kind of need somewhere to host these things. Unless maybe we can figure out some way to do it on Amazon. We're pretty tight on the budget going into next year, and we don't quite have all the specifics of the Amazon details yet.
Do you mean about hosting the created packages, or?
Yeah, I mean one of the upshots to OBS that is, I mean, fairly substantial is that they're providing the hosting for dealing with the GPG keys and for like actual downloads for end users, which has been something of a pain point for infra. And we don't really know how expensive the current packages are because they're not. I mean, it's not a product.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I'm a little bit worried as well, because from what we have got feedback from OBS folks that they can do it and they don't expect any problem, but I am personally a little bit worried about the load that this is going to generate, because those packages are relatively bigger. And I think since Kubernetes is a big project, it's going to be quite a lot of load on the OBS infrastructure, since many folks are using those packages. But I think the only way we can see how is this going to work is to give it a try. Like, I don't really think we have any way to estimate how is this all going to work like.
Sorry, I meant as opposed to us standing up our own hosting where we also have this problem. This is sort of a way for like SUSE to supply the project, like which is something that we're hoping to get more vendors involved in.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jason, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to expand on that. That was one of the ideal end goals with this. However, because we are using these packages a lot within the various different cloud providers for testing and everything, you know, whether we provide like a redirect or a proxy service, we probably want to have a discussion around that, around these packages, so that we could potentially cache those within the various different cloud providers and speed up delivery time and availability for those for like network connections. Or we could just have a simple redirector service so that if in the future we do need to migrate to a self-hosted OBS or some other type of infrastructure for hosting the devs and RPMs, we don't have to go through the URL shuffle another time. The good thing about being able to migrate to our own self-hosted OBS infrastructure as well is the SUSE folks can actually give us the GPG keys that are being used in the public OBS instance, so that we can migrate to the self-hosted infrastructure wherever we want to host it and import those GPG keys, so that if we have that redirect or that proxy in place, it would be absolutely no disruption to the end users other than the cutover.
I think we actually have one today. We can just point it at this. I think we have like apt.kubernetes.io or something like that. Similar to deal.case.io.
Yep, that'll be great.
Okay, I know that we are running out of time, so I have to ask one, let's hope, relatively quick question is how do we want to proceed? Like now that we have seen that this has potential to work, and that mostly like it is going to work, how do we want to go next? Like, so plan that I had is that we could try to get all packages that working. We could try to post those specs to a release repository to update Q packaging and then to start working on CREL integration. But I think, let's say we should have some green light in terms that, yeah, we want to go with OBS.
So unless there are objections, and it seems like most folks are good with kind of proceeding with this route, I'd say we could start putting together a roadmap detailing what the current problems that we have are, what the gaps are to actually implement the solution, and actually build out basically update the KEP with a detailed, adoption strategy of how do we get to alpha, beta, and GA with OBS.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Maybe this is something that I can take a look into in the upcoming days.
And I think in the short term, excuse me, I think it'd be awesome to define what is like the MVP minimum go or no go for OBS. Like, can we build all the packages, or what is that lowest bar to say like totally green light from SIG release, or let's put the brakes on this and just get to that kind of fail fast point and move forward? Because it does seem like we're all on board, but I think we need that low bar of saying like, yes, we're all in based on this criteria that we've defined.
Yeah, that's why I suggested the KEP. I think that would be a good place where we can asynchronously as a group come to, that conclusion of, what is that point? I think we could discuss it in this meeting, but we're lacking a whole lot of thoughts and opinions from the larger group if we do.
That's a very good point.
Not sure how to put this, but basically, I don't have super strong opinions about it. The point I have some thoughts about like if we go with each one, how to be careful with that. But the biggest thing that I just want to underline is that if I can have something to point to in the near future to show the Googlers that are still staffing this that there is like a path towards the project taking over, I think it's going to be easier to convince their management to make sure that we have a very graceful transition. They're pretty close to just not doing this anymore. There's just no team alignment, and they're getting folded into the to a larger team that is has existing significant on-call duties.
I think that's a great point, Ben. And I think we can point them at the combination of the work that we're doing to break out the building and the signing of the packages as one of those steps. And I think we can absolutely point them to the POC that we're doing with OBS right now, and like Marco's demo as another one. And I think the KEP is the next step to show them that, we can actually put a timeline on this and time box it instead of just, up in the air, like we're working on it type of thing.
I appreciate it. I pointed them to the breakout and so on. I'll bring the KEP as soon as we have that, and I'm gonna follow up on the thread with their managers and so on about this meeting today. That like from my point of view, like we have pretty significant progress here, and thank you all for working on that.
Yeah, I have also just shared the link to this project, so this is publicly available. Anyone can go ahead and take a look, so you can see specs and other stuff that might be useful. So, yeah, just as an information. Okay, and with that, I think we are running out of time, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I will move to open topics either to next week's meeting, or we just discuss them asynchronously in Slack, as you prefer. Thank you all for attending. We are already out of time. Thanks for the demo, Marco. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you all soon. Bye.
Thanks, folks.
Bye-bye.